Hey everyone, Nigel and Luke here, and welcome to Crime Zone. If you're a regular viewer of our channel, you might remember that back in July, we covered 2 chilling stories of murder that took place in college dorm rooms. Because we always seem to find more cases than we can cover in our themed lists, we occasionally like to revisit these topics to cover even more similar cases. With this particular topic, we figured what better time to do it than right after Labor Day, when many people are returning for a brand new school year. Today, we've got 2 more equally chilling cases for you that took place in college dorm rooms. Both of these stories were also chosen in part because of their proximity to the beginning of the school year. Before we get to today's video, we just wanted to take a quick moment to announce that we have officially passed 100,000 subscribers on the channel. We wanted to say that we couldn't be more grateful to all of you who have helped get us to this unbelievable milestone. Your support has meant the world to us, and we are constantly humbled and blown away by how amazing all of you have been since we started the channel. As a thank you, we thought it would be fun to do some more viewer-suggested cases in the next couple weeks, so be sure to drop any suggestions you have for us in the comments of this video. With that out of the way, here is part 1 of 2 more chilling cases that took place in college dorms.
On September 28, 2012, 18-year-old Alex Kogut was excited. Her boyfriend, 21-year-old Clayton Whittemore, was coming for a weekend visit at the State University of New York, Brockport, where she had recently started classes as a freshman. Though Alex was only 4 weeks into the semester, she had quickly adapted to life on campus. The upbeat and outgoing teen had never had problems making friends, with her warm and caring personality always seeming to wear off on those around her. In frequent texts and phone calls to her parents back home in New Hartford, Alex detailed all the great new experiences she was having at school and how well things were going. Of course, some things did stay the same in Alex's life. As the former captain of her high school swim team, she wasted no time pursuing her passion for athletics at her new school and quickly made the Brockport team as well. There was also her steady relationship with her boyfriend Clayton. The two had been dating for more than a year and by all accounts were extremely happy and were in love. Like Alex, Clayton was also from New Hartford and was known as a great athlete. In his senior year at their high school, he was the star of the hockey team, but had since moved on to studying accounting at Utica College. That weekend, Alex and Clayton planned to hang out on and off campus, spend time with friends, and go to a couple of parties. Alex had eagerly marked the date down on a dry erase calendar in her dorm room in McLean Hall with the words, "Clayton comes," and had even made arrangements for her roommate to stay elsewhere so that the two of them could have the room to themselves. However, unbeknownst to anyone at the time, the weekend would end in horrifying tragedy. The first sign of trouble was when Alex's mother, Becky Kogut, was unable to reach her daughter on the evening of September 28th. This was out of character for Alex, who always kept in touch. After trying for hours with no response, Becky called University Police, who sent Officer Michael Johnson to conduct a routine welfare check at Alex's residence. Johnson arrived at room 108 in McLean Hall at approximately 2:40 a.m. on September 29th, and upon entering, made a shocking discovery. He found the body of a young woman with dark hair lying face down inside the room. She was completely unresponsive. Blood spatter at the scene suggested that the woman had been the victim of unthinkable violence. It would soon be revealed that she had died from blunt force trauma wounds and that the killer had used various items around the room to beat her to death. Though authorities were initially unsure about the identity of the deceased victim, less than 2 days later, police confirmed that it was Alex Kogut. The confusion had come both from the fact that the attack had reportedly left Alex unrecognizable and that she had recently dyed her hair darker so that it didn't seem to match the pictures of her in her dorm room. The news of Alex's death came alongside a second shocking announcement. Her boyfriend, Clayton Whittemore, had been arrested for her murder. It didn't take long for police to catch up with the 21-year-old. At roughly the same time that Alex's body was discovered, authorities in New Hartford received a call from Clayton's father, Scott Whittemore, who told them that his son had just called him and confessed to murdering somebody. Clayton called police himself just before 4 a.m. from a rest stop on the New York State Thruway near Syracuse. In a chilling 911 call, he told dispatchers that he, quote, "did something I can't take back, and I just gotta turn myself in." He was taken into custody a short time later. During the arrest, police described seeing blood on his hands and shoes. In the days and weeks following the horrifying crime, both the Brockport University campus and the town of New Hartford saw a mass outpouring of grief and support for the Kogut family. The timing of the crime was also impossible to ignore, occurring just 2 days before the beginning of Domestic Violence Awareness Month. The campus and the streets around the small town of New Hartford were awash in purple ribbons and banners commemorating Alex. The color was both her favorite and is also commonly used as a symbol for raising awareness about domestic and intimate partner violence. At Alex's funeral on October 4th, Reverend Paul Drobin implored a crowd of nearly 1,000 mourners to love and care for one another just as Alex had while she was alive. Though Alex's parents did not speak at the ceremony, a written statement they prepared was read in which they similarly asked friends and family not to let anger about what had happened cloud their memories of their daughter. However, this was easier said than done, particularly as information continued to come out about the brutal crime. On the night of the murder, Clayton and Alex had been seen arguing at a party that they had attended. While on their way home, Clayton had received a ticket for having open alcohol on campus, and though he was cooperative with officers, the encounter had supposedly made him even more angry. When the couple returned to Alex's dorm just after midnight, friends said that things appeared awkward and tense between them. This was backed up by 2 final messages that Alex had sent shortly before her murder. The first was an ominous final tweet sent at 12:13 a.m. that simply said, "Should have known." The second was a text message to a friend 6 minutes later that read, "Clay and I are in a fight, ha ha ha. I don't think we are going back out." However, the most chilling details came from statements that Clayton allegedly made to police following his arrest. He told them that he had felt disrespected by Alex at the party that they had attended, and the fight continued once they arrived back at her dorm room. From there, it had devolved into a rehashing old arguments about cheating, as well as other things that Clayton described as stupid stuff. Clayton claimed that during the argument, Alex began to push him, which had caused him to snap. He said he began to beat and stab her with a combination of his fists as well as several objects around the room, including a mug, pens, and finally a clothing iron. Disturbingly, he said that when he noticed that she was struggling to breathe, he decided to finish her off, describing it as putting her out of her misery. Though Clayton was quickly charged with second-degree murder, it would take nearly 2 years for the case to go to trial. The proceedings finally began in May of 2014 after being delayed 4 times due to requests from the defense. The delays were for various reasons, including the defense team trying to have Clayton's statements to police made inadmissible at trial, but mostly were due to the extensive psychological evaluations they had done on Clayton in preparation for the proceedings. Due to the overwhelming evidence against him, the defense would not attempt to prove that Clayton wasn't involved in Alex's murder, but rather that he should receive a lesser sentence of manslaughter for the crime. According to the defense, at the time that Clayton killed Alex, he was experiencing an extreme emotional disturbance brought on by years of abuse that he had suffered at the hands of his father, Scott. They claimed that this abuse had triggered a violent response in him when Alex had pushed him while they were arguing. At trial, these arguments were backed up not only by Clayton's sister, Samantha, but from the defense's psychiatric expert, Dr. Rory Hodelin. Samantha Whittemore described how she and her siblings had experienced constant violence and harassment throughout their childhoods at the hands of her father. She explained that these terrifying incidents frequently resulted in serious injuries. She had had her nose broken, and her brother had once had his arm broken when Scott attacked him with a baseball bat. Dr. Hodelin described the Whittemore children's living situation as one of the most extreme examples of abuse he had ever seen, and argued that it explained why Clayton had snapped when confronted by his girlfriend. However, prosecutors pushed back on this testimony with their own expert witness, Dr. Rajendra Singh. While neither prosecution nor Dr. Singh challenged the idea that Clayton had suffered abuse at the hands of his father, they argued that this neither excused nor fully explained his actions. In particular, Dr. Singh pointed out that rather than being confused in the aftermath of the murder, Clayton had partially cleaned up himself and the crime scene before fleeing. He also pointed to testimony secured by the prosecution from previous girlfriends of Clayton's who claimed that they had likewise experienced physical violence during their relationship with him. Dr. Singh argued that this suggested a pattern of behavior rather than a spontaneous emotional disturbance. Finally, prosecutors presented text messages between Clayton and Alex that demonstrated that emotional abuse and threats had been present in their relationship for some time. After deliberating for just over 2 hours over 2 days, the jury in the case found Clayton Whittemore guilty of second-degree murder on May 30th, 2014. Less than 2 months later, he was given the maximum possible sentence for the crime, life without parole for 25 years. In an extremely powerful statement that lasted nearly half an hour at the sentencing hearing, Alex's mother Becky spoke to the packed courtroom. After describing how she and her family had been betrayed by Clayton, whom they had learned to love before Alex's death, she spoke about how she felt his family was also responsible. She described Scott Whittemore as evil and said that he had groomed his son to be a killer, explaining that she had told him to turn himself in to police for what he had done to his children. She said that she did this in an attempt to stand up for Clayton because no one else in his life had ever done so before. Though the trial brought an official end to the case, it could never repair the damage done to the countless lives that were touched by Alex and who still mourn her loss. We can only hope that in the years since, her family and friends have found some semblance of peace.
Do you know of any other cases like this that you think we should check out? Tell us about them in the comments section below. As always, if you enjoyed our video, don't forget to like and subscribe to Crime Zone for more true crime content like this, making sure to hit the notification bell to stay up to date with our latest releases. Thank you for watching.